All right, and we're live. I want to thank everybody that's joining us today for the National Drug and Alcohol Facts Week event. Today we have recovery stories. There's going to be two of us that will be sharing our recovery stories. Kind of the format is basically what our life was like before falling into addiction, what it was like during the addiction, and then how did we get out of it, and how is our life now. So we'll be getting into that just a little bit. But the reason we're doing these events, the one from yesterday and the one for today, is because it is National Drugs and Alcohol Facts Week. Basically, what that is an annual event focused on the science of drug use and addiction that educates and empowers youth to make informed decisions about substance use and their health. Right. So yesterday we talked about a little bit about some science behind this. Today we want to have actual real stories, right, of lived experience and what it was like being a young person going through addiction. What was the family like? What was going on? And so we can share the real deal, what's going on. We will take questions after our shares, so we'll have some opportunity for that. Um, at the bottom of the screen, you'll see our website. And then if you have any information or questions, you can email us at info@f-vent.org. And then on social media, our tag is, uh, at, did I put that twice? Yeah, so I made a mistake again. But it is at F_FENT_. Right. I will fix that and put that at the bottom of the screen. But check us out on Instagram, on Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. Before we get started, I do want to share about some upcoming events that are happening. First one is we have a community overdose prevention training, and this is coming up on Tuesday, March 25th at 6:30 at the Naranja Branch Library, 14850 Southwest 280th Street. 6:30 next Tuesday. So if you attend, you'll get to learn how to respond to an overdose. We're going to give out Narcan, fentanyl test strips, and just educate folks on how to respond to an overdose. Um, Also, if you guys are attending the Ultra Music Festival, we are going to be out there on all 3 days, March 28th through 30th. We're going to be in the chill zone, which is in the front of the festival. We'll be giving out Narcan, educating people on how to respond to an overdose. We'll have shirts and hats for sale that 100% of the proceeds go to our organization to continue this mission. And we'll be there to support y'all. If you are in recovery, come say hi. If you're not in recovery, come say hi. We're going to be there. We're there to support and just educate on overdose prevention and harm reduction. So come check us out. Um, let's see. If you are a student, we got a training for you as well on April 1st. We want you to come out at 6:30. It's in the Shalala building, 302. You can scan that QR code and you'll be able to um, sign up for that. All this will be on our website, so you can check us out if you forget any of the information. Let's see what else. Another one, last but not least, we want to share about Overdose Awareness Day. I want you to save the date. Um, we are going to have an event at the University of Miami on August 29th, 2025. We will have the Black Poster Project there, which basically looks like what you see on the screen is that every one of our loved ones that has a poster is going to be represented there. It's an amazing sight to see. If you have a loved one that you want to recognize, you can go to blackposterproject.com and get the poster done for free. So just lock down that date, August 29th, 2025. We're going to have the display there for the majority of the day. And then in the evening, we're going to have some guest speakers and remembrance of loved ones. All right. All right. So up first, we're going to have our first speaker of the day. Her name is Lady Suarez. She's a person in recovery, and she has recently started working in the field of prevention. She's a prevention specialist. She's a great person. Love to hear her story. Everybody, welcome the lady. There she is. All right, it's all yours.
Thank you, Tommy. Hi, everyone. My name is Lady Suarez, and I'm thankful to Fentanyl for inviting me to speak for the week of Drug and Alcohol's Fact Week. And I am a person in recovery. I've been in recovery for 2 years and a half, and it's been great. It's been life changing. I was my parents came from Colombia when I was 2 years old to this country for a better life. And my parents have been together for 43 years. I have a younger sister, 7 years younger, and we had a loving family. I can't say anything bad about. We were lower class, but we always had everything that we needed. So my experience with alcohol, in particular, with that substance, is it. I don't feel that it was anything that had to do with my upbringing or with my family. I was just always been a child that was very uncomfortable, obnoxious, aggressive, angry. I always had this sense of I didn't like myself at all. I didn't like the skin that I was in. And when I was younger, I was always getting into trouble. I was a good student because my grades were pretty good, but my conduct was always very bad, and I was always getting in trouble for fighting. I remember I used to watch a lot of these violent movies, and I would watch wrestling. I wasn't allowed; my parents wouldn't let me, but I would still sneak and watch them, and it was exciting to me. Always so mad. I was always just so mad at the world for I mean, before I used to think it was for no reason, but now understanding and in my path with recovery, I was when I was in school, I got bullied a lot. I was an overweight child, and it did hurt my feelings thinking of it now, but back then I didn't know how to deal with that. And it was the coping mechanism that I used was fight back. In my house, I didn't talk to my parents about the way that I was feeling. I'm not going to say that it wasn't something that they didn't allow me and my sister to do, but I felt like I didn't want to bother them. I felt like I didn't want to look weak, and I didn't want to say, what was going on in school. So I would just deal with it. I've never been a person, even as a young child, that would ask for help about anything, not even in school, like to my teachers. If I didn't understand something, I would figure it out somehow. So asking for help was something that I didn't want to do. So it was my childhood would like I mentioned before, it was just up and down. I was all over the place. I was a tomboy. I always wanted to be outside. I never wanted to be home. I always wanted to play with the neighborhood kids. I love to get dirty. I love to play soccer. I wasn't a regular girl playing with Barbies and dolls. I always felt like the street was something where I wanted to be, and I would come home late and get in trouble because I was out for such a long time playing and getting I hurt. I mean, I would scrape my knees, and it was like the coolest thing. So when I got into high school, I joined the soccer team. I played soccer. To me, soccer was something that I loved, and it was something that gave me that sense of wow, it's something that I'm good at, and I love doing it. It was something that I actually couldn't believe that I was able to do anything right. So I joined soccer, and it gave me a lot of confidence. It gave me a lot of discipline, and everything went well for a couple of years until I my soccer career wasn't happening because things, life happens. So at 17 was the first time where I picked up a drink, and from there on I drank for 23 years, and it was thinking about it now. I go back a lot to thinking about things because when it was happening, I didn't think that I had a problem with substances. And I know it's Drug and Alcohol Fact Week, and alcohol is my substance of choice, the one that I'm in recovery for. But when I picked up my first drink, I tried many other substances. I was someone that would try anything once just because I wanted to be cool, just because it felt like I was getting outside of myself. I felt confident. I felt pretty. I felt cool. And that was the most important thing to me at the moment. I didn't have any goals. I didn't have any ambitions. I just really wanted to party. So my 20s were a messy party. My 30s to mid 30s were a blur. And my mid 30s to my 40s were destruction. When I decided to start this recovery journey, it was something that I didn't think that I had a problem when I first came into. I do a 12-step program, I go to meetings, I get that support. I know there's many pathways to recovery, but that is the one that I chose. And asking for help, that was something very difficult when I realized that alcohol had become something that I couldn't control anymore. My mother, she had always said for many years that I had a problem. She would tell my father, and my father said, no, she's just drinking too much. She needs to stop. My younger sister was many times taking care of me, many times covering up the messes that I would make. So I feel like my parents and my sister didn't realize the magnitude of a problem that I had until later on in the years. I would hide many things from them. When I was younger and in my teenage years and in my 20s, and I was drinking, I was always sleeping over friends' houses. I was always staying out at different friends' homes because I didn't want my family to see the way that I was partying. And then it became, I had many friends, and I'm grateful for the friends that still are friends with me now, because I lost many friends. That's the thing about this disease that I have, which it's I had certain consequences at the beginning of my drinking, and they were mainly social consequences. I had friends that they didn't want to hang out with me. They were tired of taking care of me. I was the friend that before we went to a party or before we went to a club, I was already drunk. So many times they didn't want to deal with me, and I don't blame them. I mean, I was like, like taking care of a baby, and I would ruin the fun. I would get into altercations. I would ruin anything that I was invited to. So after a while, not many people were inviting me to anything. So instead of acknowledging that and thinking that I actually had a problem with alcohol, I just said, okay, I'll get new friends. So I changed. I had many different groups of friends. I was with the rockers for a while. I was with the hip hop heads for a while. I was with athletes for a while. I would change different groups and different circles just because people were getting tired of me. But yet, I didn't think of it as a problem. I just thought that, well, they just don't understand me, or they just can't hang like I could hang when it came to drinking. But in reality, I couldn't hang at all. So that went on for many years, and I lost. Alcohol took away many things from me, and one of the things that it took was time. It took time from my family. It took time from anything that I wanted to do productive with my life, and it caused a lot of suffering and pain, especially for my family, because most of the time I was under the influence, and I don't remember. There was many times where I blacked out. And when you hear someone that deals with substances and they say that they don't remember, you honestly, it's the truth. We don't. And I'm not going to say that that happens to everyone. I'm just speaking about experience. It happened to me many times that I would say and do things that I normally wouldn't say or do when I wasn't under the influence. And it's scary. It's scary. I put myself in many scary situations, and thankfully, nothing besides the fact that I was drinking, nothing terrible happened to me, which I know that that was God that saved me from many of those things. I was very irresponsible. I would drive under the influence, which is illegal to do, And I don't have a DUI by the grace of God, because I should have many. I should probably still be in jail for the many times that I drove under the influence. And it's something that I used to take for granted, because when I was young and I was partying and drinking, I thought I was invincible. And I didn't necessarily think that anything was going to happen. Like I mentioned before, my goal, I had no goals. All I wanted to do was maintain a job, in anything. I always had very much luck with getting jobs. And as long as I made money and I was able to party and to drink the way that I wanted to drink and to get new clothes and to get new sneakers, that was fine with me. That was the top of the iceberg as far as doing anything with my life. And I went to school. I graduated with a bachelor's in criminal justice from FIU, but it was honestly just to make my parents happy. I wanted them to see that I could get a degree and that maybe my drinking wasn't that serious if I was able to do something as far as education for myself. And they were proud. I was proud of myself as well too. But deep down inside, it wasn't something that I actually wanted to do. I just didn't want them to. I want them off my backs, better yet said, or off my back. So it continued for a long time, and my parents, they suffered so much. This disease is a family disease. Even though my parents don't drink, my sister doesn't drink, it was something that I didn't see. I never saw that in my home. I do have some family members that do drink. I can't classify anyone to have, if they have a substance problem like I do. I know I do. And I understand now for that there may be many different factors, environmental, it could be genetics. It's many factors that I don't know exactly to pinpoint the reason why I have this disease, but it's a disease of the mind, of the body, of the spirit. And when I decided to actually, for the first time, ask for help was 2 years, 2 years and a half ago, and it was one of the hardest decisions I had to make, because I didn't want to stop drinking, or better yet, I couldn't stop drinking. And it was sad to admit, because I thought I had it under control. But the partying and the going out had already it had stopped for me. I was drinking at home, I was drinking alone in my room. During COVID, I think was the highest peak of my alcoholism, because I was the only one going to work. So I would go out and buy my alcohol, come back home and just drink it in my room, and it was every single day. I don't say that even when I didn't drink every day, I didn't have a problem with alcohol. I would only drink on the weekends, but I tried many different methods on my own before I came into recovery. I tried to switch from hard liquor to beer. I switched to wine. I switched to many things, but in the end, it was always out of control. So when I decided to get help, I came into a 12-step program, and it was hard for me at the beginning, because I felt, as a person that has never wanted to feel weak, I felt the weakest when I came into the 12-step program, because I felt vulnerable, and I've never wanted to feel vulnerable before. I never wanted to talk about my problems, never wanted to talk about anything, and it was very difficult for me to realize that this had taken over my life and that I needed the help. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I decided to get sober. I think that getting sober was the the most rewarding decision I have ever made in my life. And like I mentioned, I went to school, I finished school, but this path of my recovery is definitely the proudest moment that I've ever had. And it continues, because it's something that I work on every single day. It's something that I know that I have to do for the rest of my life, and I'm willing to work on that and to do that. I remember when I first got my first year of sobriety, my dad said, so you don't have to go to those meetings anymore, right? And I said, no, Dad, that's not how that works. I have to for the rest of my life. And I think that it was hard on my parents, especially my dad, because he used to always say, but I would hear him talk to my mom in their room and mention, but she's so smart, I don't understand why she can't just put down the drink and not pick it up anymore. And then my mom would say, she has a problem. You don't understand. And my sister has always been there for me. She still continues. And it was hard on her because I feel like my parents were too preoccupied with trying to get me to stop and dealing with everything that I was putting the family through. And my sister was just there. I would say she was neglected for many, many years, but thankfully she's a champ, and I'm so blessed to have her in my life. And I today I'm so lucky of this amazing life that I have. I left my office job of many years, and I decided to apply 6 months ago to be a prevention specialist for middle school and high school kids for the city of Hialeah, where I talk to these kids that I speak to them about life training skills, where we talk about self-image, we talk about healthy relationships, family communication, drugs, alcohol, vaping, tobacco, and it's so amazing that Aunt me, that I was one of those rebellious kids growing up, that I get to speak to other kids about, these important life skills, and also bring in a bit of my experience, because I feel like that's the way that I can get to the kids. I don't mention anything about me being in recovery. It's not allowed, but I do understand when the kids talk about certain things, because those were the things that I was going through. So having or having this job that I'm allowed to do this has only been possible because of my sobriety. I wouldn't have been able to apply to even have a successful interview, or to even be chosen to work for this organization. And it's it's just so, I mean, sometimes I before I go to sleep, I always think about how my day went, and it's so much different of how my days, or how my days that turned my nights that turned into days before go now, because it's just, I mean, sometimes I get a little teary-eyed, because I'm sorry, but I'm just so happy. Today is actually, I saw online that it's National Happiness Day, and it's perfect to mention how happy I am in my sobriety and the wonderful life that I live. I have a healthy relationship with my fiance. I my parents me and my parents are closer than ever. My sister as well. I'm able to help other people in with their sobriety. I help two women in this 12-step program that they they asked for help, that they asked me to be their sponsor, and I'm so grateful that they would ask me to help them. And it's a beautiful life. It's different. I mean, I can't say everything is perfect, because life still happens. I still get stressed out. My car still breaks down. There's still Miami traffic that drives me insane. But never in the past 2 years and a half have I thought that picking up a substance would make anything in my life easier. So I want to thank Tommy for allowing me to be here tonight and to speak. And I know that there's many resources now, that because I didn't know this before, or I wasn't looking for them when I wasn't ready to be sober. There's many resources out there. There's 12-step programs, there's churches, there's therapy, there's detox, there's rehab. But anything that people feel like they need and can ask to help, please do so. Even myself, I'm a resource that I can speak to anyone that is interested in trying to get sober, because I was there. And I'm not going to say that it's not, it's it's easy once you decide to make that change. It's easy when you when I looked at myself in the mirror before I came into this program, I looked at myself in the mirror many, many times, and I didn't even recognize myself. I didn't like the person that I saw in the mirror. And when I came into this program to decide that I wanted to change, I looked at myself and I had to be honest with myself and say, lady, you need to stop. You need the help. So ask for it. So I'm grateful again to Tommy, to F Fentanyl. And thank you. Thank you for allowing me to be here. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you so much, lady. I appreciate your story. It's always amazing to see the change that's happened in your life. It's fantastic. So moving on to our next story, which is going to be on my behalf. I'll be speaking, sharing my story. Um, and just as a reminder, you could go to fvent.org, f-vent.org, see all our resources. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat right now, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube. Send the questions, and then we'll answer them after towards the end of this program. And then share our stream, share our live, and we're happy to. This is going to be available so you can share it with people and use it as a tool um, to connect with people. And that's really why we're here. We're getting into a little bit about why I'm here. I am a person in long-term recovery. For me, that means I have not had a drink or a drug since September 12th of 2014. Um, and anytime I say that, it's amazing to me because that's 10 years. Um, to have 10 years when I was struggling so hard to get one day, um, it's a miracle to me. Honestly, it's been a huge change. Specifically in the last couple of years, I've dealt with a lot of life things. You know, when you get into recovery, that doesn't mean that life is going to stop happening. And I know Lady touched upon that. Um, things are going to happen. And it's up to if I'm connected with my recovery, if I'm going to be able to deal with it or not. Um, but I'll go backward and kind of start where I began. Similar to Lady, I have both of my parents in my life growing up. I grew up in the Kendall and the suburbs of Kendall. I had everything I needed. We did pretty good as a family. I have a older brother, is 4 years older than me, and there was everything that I really needed was given to me. But internally, um, what I felt is I always felt different. Um, you know, Starting from elementary, going into middle school, and then into high school, I had a huge anxiety and huge fear all the time. And it's something that was always preventing me from making those friendships, from connecting with people. Very hard for me because I was always in so much anxiety and so much fear. And so, um, because I didn't have too many friends, I started to on the focus on my schooling. I started getting good grades, and that was the way I got my validation was through my parents, knowing that they liked that I was doing good in school, right? They thought I was doing okay. Um, where outward it looked okay from the academic standpoint, but from a social standpoint, I was disconnected. I didn't have any friends, and the friends that I did have, a lot of them used to make fun of me and were kind of bully slash friends. And I couldn't really speak up for myself because I was so filled up with fear and anxiety. Um, and then fast forward to when I was introduced to alcohol and marijuana was the first substance that I used, and it was um, introduced to me through some friends of my brother, and my brother was like my my he was who I really wanted to be because I felt like he had it down. He was able to have friends. He had girlfriends. He had a lot of friends. He was a class clown, and that's kind of how I wanted my life to go. But I was like the opposite. I didn't talk to anybody, and so when I got a chance to hang around, I would hang around as much as I could. And one time hanging around with him and his friends, I was introduced to marijuana. There was no part of me that said, "Hey, maybe I should not do this." There was a huge part of me that said, "Hey, you better not look stupid in front of these guys. You gotta, look like you know what you're doing." And that's what got me to try weed for the first time. Um, and a little after that, it was just a regular thing for me, and it became something that uh, was the first time I saw that I could get out of that feeling of anxiety and fear that I always had. And up until that point, I didn't know I could get out of that. Um, and then finding alcohol pretty close after that was, it was a life changing experience. It really was because I had not been diagnosed with anxiety disorder. I had not had any solutions, and this was the first thing that I saw that worked for me and allowed me to socialize with people, allowed me to take that fear away, and my life changed drastically after that. It was from having very little friends to actually having a good amount of friends and going out and hanging out. And my life, I'm not going to lie when I say that my life got better in that beginning part of my active use because the consequences hadn't started yet. I was able to hang out. I started hanging out and started talking to people and started talking to girls. And this was something that I had never been able to do. But I say the consequences didn't happen yet, but they came pretty quickly. Whereas I got arrested for the first time in high school when I went from being a straight A student that never missed school to getting suspended and arrested while while being a student there. And it was you know night and day, and that's really where it set off was in high school, and then graduating from high school, and then getting my first DUI at the age of 18, and then getting my second DUI at the age of 19 or 20, right, and then another DUI, right. So having two DUIs before I'm old enough to drink, and getting these constant interactions with law enforcement and constant interactions, getting in trouble. And these were things that were happening to me. And in my mind at the time, that was not enough for me to stop, right? Because it did what I wanted it to do was to help me socialize, help me deal with my anxiety. But what happened over time is that it started developing more anxiety over time when I was not drinking. When I was sobering up on the next day, it was just extreme amounts of anxiety. Um, some of the consequences that came, of course, I mentioned the arrests, but where school came so easy to me in my earlier years, I tried to go to school, Miami-Dade College, and I would always have good intentions and try to go to school. I'd buy my books and sign up, and I just couldn't continue to show up. I would go and maybe get a good grade on the first test, and then I couldn't because the the obsession to drink and the obsession to use was so strong. So I would always have that pulling me when I was trying to go to school, and I couldn't I couldn't finish the semester, man. It was taking so long, and it's because I couldn't show up. And that was one of the big consequences of my use was that I started to believe that I was not capable of it. I started to believe that I was not smarter anymore. Um, and I internalized that. It was just like I thought I might as well not even try anymore because I can't do it because I had tried so many times and I could not, complete the school. It was something that it prevented me from trying again. And other consequences was you know mental health stuff, which included suicide attempts and getting you know into the psych ward for Baker Act. Um, and these are things that are directly related to my depression, my anxiety, and the substance use altogether. Right? Because I think back at that, if I succeeded in, um, what I was trying to do, commit suicide, I would not have the life I have today. I have two kids, 11-year-old and 9-year-old, right, who love me dearly. I love them dearly. I've done so many things in my life, and none of that would have happened. It would have been ended the chapter before that book even really started. And I say all this stuff because this is what I went through, and I put my family through so much stuff going through it because they taught me right from wrong. They taught me, how to be a good person. They taught me, you know, everything, and it wasn't that I didn't know right from wrong. It wasn't that I wanted to do bad things. It was just that when I was using and under the influence, my decision making was not right. And I put myself in harm's way a lot of the times. Um, I remember, you know, my family, my mom particularly, say asking, "Don't you love us? Don't you want to? Can't you just stop for us? Don't you love us enough to stop?" And that was not the reason that I couldn't stop. It wasn't because I didn't love them. I loved them more than anything in the world, and they loved me more than anything in the world. But that was not enough for me to stop drinking or to stop using because the amount of obsession that I had to use and to drink was the same as if I was in survival mode. If you haven't eaten or drank water in days, you would do anything to get a bite to eat or to drink water, right? And that's the obsession. That's how strong the obsession is when you're in active addiction. My brain was just like, I need to do this, or I'm not going to function. I'm not going to survive. Um, and unfortunately, that put me, myself, and my family through a lot in going through that. I remember getting my last DUI, the third one, and it was right by the house. um, Getting arrested. I know. All right, going back to jail for the same thing that I've done a bunch of times. And I called my dad. I asked him to see if he could come pick up the car that I was driving. And I tell him, please don't bring my mom to the scene, um, because I was just ashamed. I was ashamed of what I had done again. And fortunately or unfortunately, he brought my mom to the scene. And when we locked eyes, it was just immediate, like waterworks. I crying, and I could see the disappointment in her eyes. And it was, in my head, it was just like, I can't do this again. I can't do this to my family again. Um, and I get hauled off to jail, to TGK, and do a couple days in there, and I get out, you know, come home, take a shower, and then I go back out again to go use a drink. And that feeling of how I hurt my family had disappeared, because that obsession came back so fast, right? And that's just the cycle of the addiction, constantly saying I need to stop doing this, I gotta do something, and then within seconds, within minutes, changing that because of uh, how strong it was. And it wasn't that I didn't want to, and I could honestly tell my family, hey, look, I'm not gonna use today, I'm not gonna drink today, and I will pass the lie detector. I believed it with every ounce of my being, and then go use later on in the day, you know. And that's just I honestly believed it, but that disease is so strong. Um, what happened with me in getting into recovery was that, um, luckily I didn't give up in trying. There were times where I went to treatment multiple times. I got introduced to meetings, to 12-step meetings, and I would constantly go back after messing up, or periods of going back out for a couple of years, and then, what, I got to go try this again. I was able to get, at one point I had 6 months, at one point I had 2 years, and then at another point I had 3 years in recovery. And so I knew the deal. I found the solution, and every time that I would deter from the solution, it was because, it was never because my life was going bad. It was always because I got complacent, and my life was going good. The last time I went back to using after 3 years, um, I had went started going back to school. I had got my associate's degree, and I started going to FIU, and I was doing my bachelor's degree. And I had a job that was paying the bills. I had just had my first kid, my daughter Annabella, and things were going pretty good. And what happened in my mind was that I took my decision making back, and I took my will back. Was, hey, you know what? I got a lot on my plate right now. I got work, I got school, I got family. I need to stop doing this recovery uh, thing. I didn't say it like that, but I said, hey, I need to, these meetings are getting in the way, and this the service that I'm doing in recovery, which was taking meetings into a treatment facility, was getting in the way of my life, right? When in reality, that's what gave me life. But at the time, I didn't see it that way, and I stopped going to meetings. I stopped going to the treatment center to do service, and my life didn't change on the outward, but everything started getting aggravating and making me mad, and it was just everything that I was able to deal with. It started aggravating me more, and I ended up picking up a drink and drug after 3 years, and my life spiraled out of control again, as if I had never stopped. I went back at it, and I had to go back into treatment. I went to detox. I had a bunch of seizures. The mother of my kid had to leave me. Um, you know, I lost a brand new vehicle that was totaled. A lot of different things that happened in a short period of time. Because this disease of addiction is it keeps on going despite even if you're sober, or you're in recovery, it will catch up to you, and that's what it did for me. I was back at it within the day. I was as if I had never stopped. Luckily, I was able to get back into recovery through the help of other people in recovery. Right? That's really a blessing. Is that I got to meet a lot of people in recovery during my that 3 year period, and they never stopped reaching out to me, and I was able to get back into recovery after a little couple bumps on my head, um, and I was able to focus back on going to school, um, and as a result of the recovery and getting focused back on recovery, um, I was able to get my bachelor's degree, and then go back and go do my master's degree, and these are all miracles. If you hear what I was saying before, I thought I could not go back to school because I had lost, the intelligence that I had as a kid because of trying so many times and I couldn't do it. And then fast forward to, having a couple bumps in the road, but getting back into recovery and being able to go back to school and get my associate's, my bachelor's, and my master's degree was life changing. Honestly, it changed my perspective as to what I can do as a result of recovery, and as a result of recovery as well. Um, from what I learned in school, from what I learned as a person in recovery, and trying to help other people and trying to get going in this thing, um, I started doing some service where I started a student organization at FIU to help people in recovery, and then graduating FIU and starting another organization, um, a nonprofit organization focused on recovery, right? And then fast forward to where I'm at today and doing another nonprofit that is focused on helping people. Um, you know, maybe they want to recover, maybe they don't, but we help them find um, a way to be safer if they are going to continue to use or if they want to find recovery. Now, these are all things I learned from people helping me. Right? None of this stuff I'm doing is original. It's just seeing how other people were able to help me, and then how other people were helping other people, and I found real purpose in doing that. Um, Not only for my recovery, but doing it as something that I would, I feel so good every day when I work in this field. I feel so good every day, even that we don't make too much money in doing this. Honestly, the payment comes in how many people we help, how many people we save from overdose, how many people, that and this happens all the time. Is when I go somewhere or I go to a meeting and I run into somebody that was a client of mine when I was working in the treatment center, or a person that went through the nonprofit that I did, or people, just people in the meetings, and I see people thriving in their recovery because they did not give up. That's really the most amazing thing. Uh, that's something I would tell anybody, that if you have a bump in the road, to not give up, go back and get engaged, right? Because not many people get it on the first time, but they will sustain the recovery if they continue to try. And that's really what happened with me, is that I continued to try, and I got the help from other people, the support from my family, um, in helping me and supporting me. And now I get to get back, and my family today, they don't have to worry about where I'm at, or if I'm in jail, or if I'm gonna, not show up that night, or if I'm dead or alive. And I don't know what that's like to be on the other side as a parent. My kids are small right now, so I don't know what that is like. I can imagine, but it is um, something that I don't ever want to put my family through again. And I don't want, I would hope I don't have to go through it, but at least if when my kids get to that age, they know my story, they know the deal of what I went through, and what they have in their genetics, that I would hope that they know what to do or who to call if there is an issue. And that's really what it's about. And really, with this drugs and alcohol facts week is about knowing the dangers of alcohol, knowing the dangers of alcohol, knowing the dangers of drugs, right? And making an educated decision as to how to be safe, right? Or how to find help if it becomes too much, right? That's really what it's about. Um, and we're here to support people in any manner, And lastly, I want to share, on recently, I have gone through life things, right? I did have some of the most hardest years of my whole entire recovery. Not at the beginning; it was in the most recent years, and that included, losing some good friends, um, that I trusted, that ended up, not feeling the same way. And that was very hard for me. And I lost a organization that I worked hard to start. That was not easy for me, and then ultimately last year, where I lost my father, he passed away less than a year ago. And I remember thinking that that was one of the reasons I would absolutely use or drink for. And it wasn't even an option when it happened. It was, I think it was, um, I wanted to celebrate his memory. And I think it would have been, something that he definitely wouldn't have wanted to happen. Um, and so I did not drink, I did not use, and I showed up for my family when that happened. And that's really, uh, kudos to the recovery program, kudos to the people that support me in recovery, kudos to my family. Um, and, and that's the way it works. I can't do this by myself. But with the support of others, I can go through anything and be assured that everything's going to be okay. And I'm glad that I'm able to do this now. Is I almost didn't make it out of that. But I know we got a few minutes left in this webinar, and I want to get to some questions. If anybody has any questions, um, this is something that we'll be available and continue to be available. If you reach out to us either on our social media platform or email us, myself, lady, we're happy to help anybody that may be struggling at the moment, and a family member or that's struggling directly. We will do our best to point you in the right direction. When our family was going through it, they didn't know where to turn, they didn't know who to talk to. So if we can help people at least know some of the resources and get some help, we'd be happy to do that. And then likewise, if there's any organizations or anybody that would like to get a training or have us come speak to some students or anything of that nature, we're happy to do that as well. Um, so I know we got 10 minutes left. I want to open it up to questions. If anybody has any questions, you can put it in the chat here. I'm gonna pull up, lady. I'm gonna pull you up again. Uh, See if anybody has questions. If not, I'm gonna ask you some questions. You could ask me some questions. Let's see if I got you here. All right, there you are. Let me see. You can put your volume down a tiny bit that way there's no echo, and then I'm just gonna shout out a couple of people that are in the chat and have said a couple of things. Thais, right? I think Elias was on there. Um, I gotta give a shout out to Thais because she knew me in my active addiction, and she kind of knows some of these stories that I'm telling. Um, but so I'll have a question for a lady. What was the hardest part of the getting into recovery, and then what's the hardest part of keeping recovery?
I think the hardest part of getting to recovery was realizing that I did have a problem. I just kept on thinking that it was, the party's not going to stop. I'm still young, but when I came into recovery at 40, I mean, me personally, I guess since I'm in my 40s, I feel like I'm old. So I think that that was the hardest part to realize that I did have a problem. And the hardest part to keeping my recovery, I think that I work at it and it's not as hard as how it used to be. I think it's doable. Maybe sometimes hearing just it's not that it's hard, it's just that it's a little aggravating hearing from from my family, are you sure you still have to go to those meetings? So, I mean, I sometimes feel like it might be hard because I take time away from spending time with them, but I know what I have to do when it comes to my sobriety. So it's doable. It's scary at first to take that jump and to realize that yes, you do need the help if you have a problem like I do. And I think that yes, take that leap of faith and ask for help.
Awesome, awesome. Completely relate to that. Um, with the sustaining the recovery. Uh, and even I've thought of that before. It's like, how long do I got to keep doing this stuff? I mean, but it was in the beginning, and then I had the results after that relapse. Like, okay, this doesn't go away. You gotta, stay engaged in this. Cool.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
Um, do you regret maybe not coming into your recovery journey at a younger age?
That's a good question. Um, there's part of me that used to regret, um, you know, not being able to stay in recovery. You know what I mean? There was the part of me when I first tried as at a younger age. It's like, oh man, I'm gonna miss out on all this stuff. The first time I tried to get into recovery, I was in my teens, and early 20s. Like I'm not even old enough to drink it. How am I already done? But that was the part of me that felt like I still needed all that. What I learned later on was that I don't need the alcohol. I don't need the drugs to have fun and to enjoy my life. Actually, my life is so much more. Um, it's I get to enjoy and remember it, right? Um, but again, I had to go through everything I went through to get to where I'm at today. You know what I mean? And it was exactly that enough pain, that was actually enough consequences. That was just enough for me to get into this again and stay close to it. Um, because it takes a lot. You know what I mean? To get that feeling of desperation, that I need to do this or else I'm gonna die, or I need to do this or I'm not gonna be around for my family. I need to do this or I'm not gonna be around for my kids. And that's it's different than when I was younger, and it was like if I don't do this, you know, yeah, I was more focused on myself. Right, I was kind of very selfish, and still am to a certain extent. But I have to think about other people these days, uh, and that's cool too because that's what makes my life more meaningful is the other people in my life. Um, all right, I'll give you one more question before we get out of here. Um, so, what is the best part of recovery for you?
Being present, being present to obviously my own life and being present for everything that life throws at me now. Good, bad, beautiful, ugly, everything. Being able to remember, being able to be depended on. It's it's beautiful like I mentioned before. Yes, life still happens and it has its good things and its bad things, but I wouldn't trade this new life that I have and go back to where I was at before. And I have one last question for you, if that's okay, if
Sure.
time permits. As a father, if one of your kids were to come to you and they said that they feel like they needed help because of maybe possible substance misuse or substance abuse, how would you think that you'd be able to help them?
That's a good question. Um, Honestly, um, they know my story, and so they know, um, you know, what I've been through. But I would do everything in my power to put them in a position to get the help they need. I know I may not be the one that's going to help them. Although I'm probably the one that wants to help them the most. It may not be me, but I may, you know, try to find that person that is going to connect with them in a better way than I can. Because I know from experience that I've wanted to help so many people, particularly friends of mine that I grew up with, and I was not necessarily the one that was able to help them, but they were able to get help from somebody else that was able to connect better or was able to, just they were the one at the right time. And so for that, I would do my best not to be angry, uh, which I don't think I'll be angry. I'll be more try to listen. Why is she or he why are they needing help? Why did they use? Do they understand why they used? Uh, what they benefit out of? And I try to take the judgment out of it because I did it myself, and just give them the resources they can to succeed, and not to be um, hard on them if there is a slip in the road. Uh, to be understanding and to understand that this is something that's not that easy, but it can be done with the help of others and with the help of supporting the meetings, supporting the treatment, all these different resources. So there is that. And, knock on wood, I don't have to do that, but I know for a fact that at least they will know the facts and understand what is to be done. Perfect. Thank you very much for that question. And thank you again for uh, sharing your story so openly on a bigger platform than we're used to, right? Um, just to close out, I want to thank everybody that has logged in, that was live, but also those that are checking this out later on the replay on YouTube, on Facebook. This is something that you definitely are able to utilize. Understand a little bit of what it's like to be a person in recovery, go through an active addiction, and you see the other side. We're here to support. If you ever want us to come and share our stories or talk to folks, that's why we're doing this event right now. You can reach out to us on our website, which is scrolling at the bottom. And then again, we have a couple of events coming up. The most closest one is on Tuesday, March 25th at 6:30 for the overdose prevention training, where you'll get a chance to learn how to respond, and then also get some Narcan and test strips so you can be prepared. And then if you're going to Ultra, come say hi to us there. We're going to be there, and we're going to be ready to support. Have a good time, but we want you guys to be safe. So come check us out in the chill zone at Ultra. And then if you have, reach out to us if you have any questions that you think of that you weren't able to ask at the time. We're happy to help out in any way. All right. And we'll see you at the next one.
Bye.
Bye, guys.